Evening, everybody. All right, we are picking back up where we left off in the book of Exodus. Each week I've been doing a quick review, so let's do that again. When we turn from Genesis to the book of Exodus, we find the Hebrews in Egypt. They begin to multiply greatly, so much so that Pharaoh decides to enslave them and put them to work, get some free labor out of them. God calls Moses to lead the people out. Moses reluctantly finally accepts and decides to lead those people out. Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh, but he declines. God brings 10 horrible plagues on Egypt. We keep revisiting this idea. Why did God do the plagues? Just because he's a vengeful God? He's a wrathful God? No, why? To prove his power and make himself known, right? We talked about part of it was liberation, getting the people to be let go, but it was also revelation. It was making known himself to both his people, but then also the Egyptians. And so on that 10th plague, God institutes the Passover with the Israelites, where they were to slaughter an unblemished lamb, wipe the blood on the doorposts, and they're to be ready to go. As a result of that, so they're to get rid of all leaven. That's where we get unleavened bread from in the festival of unleavened bread. And so Pharaoh at that point, after the 10th plague, basically said, get out, and they leave. Then we've been following them on their trip that is commonly called the Exodus. It's where we get the name of the book. They're leaving Egypt. They're making a mass exodus out. We've talked about two different paths, and we don't know exactly which path they took. This is the more traditional one, where they went south there to Edom, right on the edge of the wilderness, and then they crossed over into that portion of the Red Sea that today would be called the Gulf of Suez. Or we could, and a lot more modern evangelical scholars are going this way, that they cut across the Sinai Peninsula there to a place near in the wilderness called Edom, and then the part of the Red Sea that parted was the Gulf of Aqaba, is what we would call it today. And then the wilderness wanderings are going to be over in the Arabian Peninsula, along with Mount Sinai being over there as well. We don't know. We've got lots of biblical markers, but almost all of them are gone, and we don't have a lot of evidence for one over the other. I don't know. A lot of the stuff that Judy shared and we've talked about has got me convinced it's more in this map. It just makes a little more sense timing-wise. Yeah, Ruth Ann?
I was just wondering, have you heard that
No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Was that on the video?
Yeah. They're claiming that, yes.
Gotcha. And that was in the Gulf of Aqaba then? Or was that over in Suez?
Specifically.
It was in deep water. Deep water. So we've been following their journey, whichever route they took. We've been following their journey through all these cities, through all these happenings. I was feeling in a weird mood today, trying to figure out how to best summarize this and take you through everything we've gone through in the last few weeks. And I ended up, I don't know why I did this. I don't know if this is going to be funny or just dumb. I plugged into ChatGPT, summarize the trip of the Exodus as if it was a cruise line itinerary. And so everything following is what it came out with, and I thought it was funny. So let's summarize real quick. Moses' desert cruises, where every journey is a promise delivered. So this journey they're taking is a 45-day inclusive wilderness experience. It'll be departing Ramses in month 1, day 15. And so we're going to go through a day-by-day itinerary here. Days 1 and 2, you're going to be departing from Ramses. Welcome aboard. Begin your journey with a midnight fireworks display, courtesy of the Almighty. Enjoy complimentary bread without yeast. Note, this is the only bread available. The following days, you'll be in Succoth. A brief but meaningful stay as we gather our diverse guests. You remember there was that idea of a mixed multitude that we talked about, and that's what made us think maybe some Egyptians came along here. Amenities, you'll get freshly packed dough, you'll get one night of sleep, and a pillar of cloud view. Moving on, days 3 and 4 at Edom, the edge of the wilderness, you'll experience the reveal of your personal navigation guide. Cloud by day, fire by night. Never get lost again, guaranteed. Guaranteed void if you grumble. Days 4 through 6, Pi Haratha, The Red Sea featured excursion is the Red Sea crossing. Watch the waters stand like walls. Walk a seabed trail normally unavailable to most guests. Participate in once in history Egyptian chariot disposal event. And then the evening song service with Miriam, the Lord has triumphed gloriously. I thought that was pretty funny. Then we'll visit Mara, discover the rustic charm of Bitterwater Lodge. I don't know why I put a trademark there, but soon improved with miraculous sweetening treatment. Learn how local wood remedies water issues. And then enjoy a short workshop, Trusting God 101, a crash course. If you remember, that's what we talked about more than anything else last week in those wilderness lessons. That's what they were. They were a crash course in learning to trust God day by day. Moving on in our trip, days 10 through 14 will be at Elim, the resort and spa. It's an oasis, natural springs and palm trees. Rest after a few dramatic first weeks. And so relax before we head deeper into the wilderness. And then we'll move deeper into the wilderness of Sin. Celebrate your 1 month Exodus anniversary. I don't know if there'll be complimentary, I don't know. Daily delivery of fresh manna, room service included. Evening, we'll have a quail buffet. Intro to Sabbath rhythm. If you remember, that was kind of the point there. He's introduced the festival of unleavened bread, the Passover. Here he introduces the idea of Sabbath. We'll see it codified today into the law, but this was the introduction. You're going to pick up twice as much manna on the day before the Sabbath, and it's going to stay fresh. So learning to trust God one day at a time. I like that last thing, leftover storage not recommended. We saw that it spoiled if they kept it. If they didn't trust God and they kept enough for the next day, it ended up spoiling. Moving ahead then to Rephidim, coming to our last stop. We got a double feature here, Water from Rock experience. You'll watch our staff hit a rock and produce a freshwater fountain. Hydration guaranteed. And then the second feature that night will be the Amalekite Survival Workshop. When Moses' hands go up, you win. When they go down, you lose. For best results, bring your own Aaron and Hur. And so now we roll up on month 3. We'll talk about that here in a minute, how we date that. So generally speaking, it's been 45 days of an Exodus. We'll talk about how we date that when we start this chapter 19. But this would be pulling up to Mount Sinai now. Again, we're still not sure where it is. Traditionally, the Sinai Peninsula has been named after the fact that in the 4th century, they believed it to be a mountain down in the southern Sinai Peninsula. But like I said, some people believe now it's across the Gulf of Aqaba, a little closer to Midian. Wherever it is, they're at the foot of the mountain, your new home for the next year. You're going to have thunder, lightning, and trumpet blasts, exclusive covenant ceremony that you'll get to take part in. 10 Commandments unveiling, Moses' 40-day mountaintop retreat package. Only he and Aaron get to go, sorry. And then I love this one. We'll see this play out later tonight. Please remain behind the ropes at all times. Violators will be gently escorted into the afterlife. So this is the promises that the cruise line had. Moses' desert cruises. Book now receive freedom from bondage, united tribal identity, a personal covenant with the Creator, free meals, manna plan mandatory, and then eternal story value. I thought that was pretty entertaining. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it or not, but thank ChatGPT for that. That was a fun way to use AI. Yeah, Val.
I think you got enough time. You might have been able to write that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that creative. That was.
Make it into a movie.
Make it into a movie. Yeah. I almost had it generate the pamphlet and have a brochure with Moses on the beach or something. I don't know.
Your spirituality.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what the audience that isn't here has heard.
Oh, that we're on a cruise right now? A desert cruise, yeah.
They'll have a comment.
So regardless of how you look at that path, it has been quite the journey for them. They've arrived at Mount Sinai, which if you remember, this is where Moses met with the Lord in his calling. He found the burning bush there. God called him to go, let the people go. And so now they've made it back there. And we pick up the story in Exodus 19. Let's read the first paragraph and then we'll break it down just a little bit. On the 3rd new moon, after the people of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from Rephidim and came into the wilderness of Sinai, and they encamped in the wilderness. There Israel encamped before the mountain, while Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him out of the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel, You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel. So here in a minute, Moses is going to go down and he's going to say all those things to the people of Israel, and they're going to have to return their part of the covenant. So this is God initiating this here. Let's look at the date first. It says the third new moon. So I wrestled with this quite a bit, trying to figure out exactly how they dated, and found most scholars agree that we're about 45 days. That's why we joked about the 45-day cruise. The first new moon would have been 2 weeks before the Passover, so that would have been kind of the first month. That would have been considered. So every new moon in a lunar calendar, in ancient Near East calendars are almost all lunar, including the Israelites. So that first new moon would have been that first month. The second new moon they had on the road, and this is the very beginning of that third new moon. So you're looking about a month and a half journey is what most have said. Please let me know if you find a study Bible that says otherwise, because I was kind of counting it as more like a 75. I was saying because I thought it said after, but most scholars seem to agree. So we're looking at about a 45-day trip from here. Moses went up Mount Sinai. Like I said, remember, this is where he experienced the burning bush, probably not on top of the mountain. There was no reason at that time for him to go up on top of the mountain. He was probably just around one of the corners or something like that. In fact, there's some belief that the name Sinai comes from the Hebrew for thorn bush. Nobody really knows how we got this name of Sinai. And so one of the possibilities is that it was named after this burning bush that Moses had. More importantly, what's happening here is God is laying out what we would call the Mosaic covenant. This is the beginning. If you remember, if you trace covenants through the Bible, and it's okay to do that even if you're a dispensationalist and you're not covenant theologian, that's fine. You can still look at the covenants. He had a covenant with Adam, correct? If you don't eat from this tree, you can stay in the garden. Hey, Adam broke it. He got kicked out of the garden. He had a covenant with Noah. He had a covenant with Abraham. That's the one we typically lean on. Especially up until now, we've been kind of leaning on it a lot. This is the fulfillment. God is carrying out this fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant. But now we're seeing the introduction of the Mosaic covenant. And we call it that just simply because Moses is the leader here. And so he's talking to Moses. Moses is representing the people, and he's also a prophet to the people, representing God to the people. And so God tells Moses to remind the people of what he has done, and he establishes a covenant with them. So he starts by saying what he has already done. What I want you to see here, and we're going to build on this a little later in our So What's, is the reminder that grace came before the law. We're going to see the beginning of the giving of the law tonight. Actually, we're going to be in the law for the next few weeks of our Wednesday night study. But what came first? What came before the law? The Exodus, right? Say again, Ernie.
I think you just said grace.
Grace, yeah, grace. He saved them. But was it because of their merit? Was it because they were able to follow the law? No, God demonstrated his grace in the Exodus and then gave them the law. I think that's an important order even for us to see in the Old Testament. God rescued them, and as a result, they are a special people. Why? Because he redeemed them, because he rescued them, not because they could follow this covenant. However, now he's calling them to obey him. And that should be the response to us being redeemed, is our obedience. That's the order that it goes in. Thoughts as we see this unfold? All right, Moses takes this message to the people, and we'll see God accept and set boundaries and begin to give Moses the law. So let's read the rest of 19. So Moses came and called the elders of the people and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, let's read that together since all the people answered together. You can look at your screen there. All that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, I'm coming to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe you forever. When Moses told the words of the people to the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Let them wash their garments and be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people, and you shall set limits for the people all around, saying, take care not to go up into the mountain or touch the edge of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be stoned or shot, whether beast or man. He shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people. And they washed their garments, and he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman. On the morning of the third day there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast, so that all the people in the camp trembled. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord had descended on it in fire. The smoke of it went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled greatly. And as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. And the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people, lest they break through to the Lord to look, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them. And Moses said to the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and consecrate it. And the Lord said to him, go down and come up, bringing only Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. Just an incredible scene, I think, here. It makes you realize just something very incredibly supernatural is happening here. We get so many weird details that God's coming down in this smoke and fire. There's going to be thunder is what the people are going to hear. But quite possibly the weirdest part of all of this to me is the physical boundaries. You know, Moses is permitted to come up, and then later Aaron is going to come up. But anyone else, did you notice? They can't even come close to the mountain. But yet God knows they're going to be curious, what's going on here. And so that's kind of why we joked, don't pass the ropes. There's clear boundaries here. Everybody I read said this is a picture of holiness, of God's absolute, positive, pure holiness. That a human cannot survive. And so that's why he said, even to come this close, Moses, you need to go consecrate the people. Consecrate means to be set apart, right? It's the same root word, same concept as holiness. It means to be set apart. We use the term sanctification a lot more now in the New Testament age. We say to be sanctified is to be set apart. The same idea of consecrated, of holiness. That's why he was even saying to stay away from sexual activity for these days. Not that sexual activity was inherently sinful. It was just a symbol of purity and one-mindedness and focus on what mattered most, and that was the Lord. It wasn't the things of our flesh. It was God himself. That was the idea of the consecration here, of the being set apart. But even with all of these ceremonies and days of consecration, the people aren't holy enough to come even close to the mountain, or else they will die. That is not God saying, I'm vengeful, I'm going to take it out on people. That's just God speaking facts. Like, if they come this close to me, they're going to die. That's basically what he's saying. And I think the best metaphor I found was the sun. The sun, if you think about it, is life-giving. Can you imagine? I mean, sometimes in Ohio, we go days without the sun. It's miserable. The sun gives us life. The sun gives us warmth. The sun gives us light. It is a good thing. But what would happen if we came close to the sun? I mean, we would burn up. The same concept, obviously there's limitations with any kind of metaphor, but the same thing is true of God's holiness. It's life-giving. It is light in our life. We need God's holiness, but if we approach without a mediator, without the proper boundaries, without the right purity, the consecration, whatever you want to call it, then we will surely die as well. And so what we want to see here is that the Lord is not being vengeful. He's being gracious. He's being incredibly gracious in setting boundaries. He is protecting these people. Any thoughts on the rest of that chapter there? It's an odd scene, isn't it? Am I the only one that thinks it's an odd scene?
No.
It's a strange one.
Can you imagine being out here in the
No.
mountain? Shaking.
The mountain
Just the
shaking.
mountain.
They're being... I always wondered about the trumpet sound, too. What that must have been. What that sounded like. Yeah. Yep. The smoke, the thunder, the fire, all of it. It's you're curious, but you're terrified at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, Jen.
My mama has a trumpet.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, don't bring it. We don't need a demonstration.
I never say that. I mean, when Jesus comes back from the dead, you can hear him coming right at us.
Now, I never thought about that, Jenny, but we see a lot of allusions here, biblical allusions, and that's one I haven't thought about is the trumpet sounding upon Christ's return. That's true. You've got the same trumpet blast here. Yeah, you wonder if it's the same type of thing happening.
I know what Barry said, guys. I'm sorry, guys, but...
No, you're fine, Jenny. You did
No, I mean,
good. That's
when I
good.
was growing
Yeah,
up-
Val. Oh, you got more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I was going to ask you is that when I was growing up with my parents, they're showing me how Jesus conceived you,
Mm-hmm.
for your destiny from your sin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But the sin asking you, he's saying that people, you can hear him welcoming at you.
Yeah. Yep.
You
Absolutely.
are the temple, your
Yep.
body.
Your body's the temple. That's right.
Yes.
And that's part of this
why he's
idea of
saying-
consecration as well.
Well, that's
Is
part of the reason
recognizing,
why I'm
yep.
saying that.
Yep. Good. Val.
If you heard the thunder and the lightning last night,
Yeah. Yeah.
who would want to go up on the mountain out in that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you can imagine. I mean, you guys have experienced when lightning bolt hits close enough to your house that the thunder comes right after, and you sit up straight, and
Yeah, but don't say out
sometimes you have to go change your pants, and it's scary. And so that was the kind of thunder that was happening. Yeah, absolutely. So an amazing scene, absolutely amazing scene. Again, the Lord is now descended on the mountain. He's invited Moses and Aaron to come up. And now we turn to the chapter a lot of us are used to in Exodus. We're used to the story, and then we're going to see the giving of the law. It begins in Exodus chapter 20 and takes up a good portion of the rest of the book. We're going to be here the next few weeks. I'm probably not going to read every single word just because it's a lot. And it's a lot that isn't always incredibly relevant to us right now. And so let's talk about that idea, this idea of the giving of the law. There's a couple of ways to break down these laws. One of them is apodictic versus casuistic. We're just going to call that absolute versus case. You're going to see that throughout all of this. We've got laws that are absolute. Most of what we're going to cover tonight by looking at the Ten Commandments are those. Thou shalt not murder. It's not an if-then. But the case studies are more if-then type statements. Next week, or not next week, by the way, we're not having Wednesday night Bible study next week because of Thanksgiving. Just a little reminder. I forgot to mention that earlier. But the following week, we'll come back and we'll be looking a lot of those if-then statements. If this happens, if your neighbor gores your ox, this is how much you're due. It's more case-by-case type things. And so we've got absolute, theologically they'd be called apodictic law. Those are moral, universal, unconditional laws. And then you've got the case-by-case stuff, the if-then statements. The other way to categorize the law is something that you've heard me do quite a lot. Every time I teach on the law, we break it down into these three categories. The moral law, the civil law, and the ceremonial law. First of all, I need to say these are not necessarily biblical categories. You never see these applied in the Bible. You don't see Jesus saying, okay, this is just a civil law, or Paul saying, well, that was a ceremonial law. This is something that has been applied by theologians over, a long time. It started with Augustine in the 4th and 5th century. He kind of began distinguishing between eternal moral norms and temporary rituals. He noticed as he was reading, some of this seems to be for Israel, and some of this seems to be for everybody. And so he started to separate them. Thomas Aquinas then in the 13th century started to formulate moral, judicial, ceremonial. And then you see the reformers like Calvin and Luther, and then especially the Westminster Confession. By the time it came, these three categories are defined in the Westminster Confession, this threefold division. And so moral law is universally binding. It applies to all people of all time. That's what we mean when we say a moral law. God is giving Israel some of the laws he's giving Israel are moral laws. This is as true for us today as it was for them. But then you also see him give them civil laws. For example, the price for a gored ox that we'll see in a couple of weeks. That's not really something we continue to apply today because, it was really for Israel at the time. Those are what we commonly call civil laws. They were for Israel's theocracy. Up until the time of the judges, let's say. The judges was kind of an in-between period. But Israel was seen as a theocracy. They were led by God. They were not a democracy. They were not a monarchy. They were led by God, theos. And so they were theocracy. But once Israel is gone, we live under different civil laws, don't we? Israel did not have speed limits because they didn't need them. We don't have a lot of what Israel had because we don't really need it. It is civil law. And then finally, there's this last category that is ceremonial law. It's how the size of the tabernacle, what the priests are supposed to wear, how you properly sacrifice an animal. All kinds of things like that are much more Israel's religious activity with God. And what the reformers would have said is that those were fulfilled in Christ. They believe that's what Paul is talking about when he says the law is fulfilled in Christ. So we got three different categories here. You've got moral law. Those are the ones we want our country's laws to reflect. You've got civil law. That was for Israel's theocracy. And then you've got ceremonial law. That was for Israel's religious activity. Any questions on that? As we go on in the coming weeks, you're going to see it's kind of hard to separate sometimes. Is this a moral law? Is this an apodictic law that is absolute for all time, universal and unconditional? Or does it just apply to Israel during this period of time? And sometimes it is hard to settle that out, and we can have that debate as we talk about it. So now as we roll on, the first laws that we're going to get that we'll take a look at tonight is what we commonly call the Ten Commandments. Now it's largely believed that these Ten Commandments represent moral laws. They're apodictic. They are absolute. They are universal, unconditional, that transcend any kind of situations. These are true always. Typically it's seen as having two tablets. You're going to have, as we look at these, 1 through 4, and then 6 through 10 on two different tablets. One is going to be how we love God, and the other is going to be how we love people. The other thing that is interesting, I think, is there's a difference in how we number this. That's what this slide is. The Jewish faith, Catholic faith, and Protestant faith all number these just ever so slightly different. And so I just wanted to show you this, just in case you happen to be talking with somebody else from one of these other faiths that, hey, what about that third commandment? Oh, it might be a different numbering. What's the biggest difference is that the Jews will take, I am the Lord your God who is taking you out of Egypt. We see that as a preamble. We don't even count that as a command because there's no thou shalt or anything, and so we don't take that as a command. Our Catholic brothers and sisters will combine that with "you shall have no other gods before me." And so they combine those two together, that preamble and then the first one, and then even the second one where you shall not have any graven images that we'll see tonight. Catholics would all wrap that into commandment number 1. So for them, commandment number 1 would be, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me, and that includes no graven images. And so you'll see what they typically do then is 9 and 10, what we would consider 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his property. They would break that into 2 different ones. And so if you see different numberings, this is why. When Moses didn't number them, that's the important part to remember. So let's take this command one at a time. Take these commands one at a time. Just look at them real quick as we close tonight. Exodus chapter 20. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. And so we would see this, verse 3 there, as command number 1. Like I said, Jews would count this as command 1 and 2, I believe. But anyway, God claims exclusive devotion here. Before me means literally in my face. God isn't willing to, share the throne of our hearts, right? You shall have no other gods before me. What rival gods compete for our loyalty now? How do we break this command in the 21st century? What do you think it is? Say it louder. All kinds, okay. Examples? Money, absolutely. Money might be one of the bigger ones for most of us. Whether we have it or we don't have it, it becomes a god to us. Val said power. A lot of people seek to have more influence, more power in life, and that becomes a god. Yeah, Nate. Technology, absolutely. That becomes more and more so the case. We pray to it. We follow its direction. It becomes a god for sure. Others come to mind? Possessions. Possessions, absolutely. Whether that's a car, a house, a nice guitar. It can become a god. Yep. Somebody else said something here. Sports, yeah. Which might be one of the funniest of all, but yes, absolutely we do. Especially this time of year in Ohio and SEC country, we seem to live and die with football, which I like football. I like football a lot. But yeah, we can make it a god in our lives for sure.
I know a lot of things in my life.
Yep.
I know 4 things I know from the Bible, from the 4 laws.
Yep. What about idols in your life, though? Do you have some? Yeah.
Some of them I do know.
Yep. You have to watch for those, don't you? Yeah, Frank.
Mr. Bowman said that if you buy 2 things, it'll take you away from church.
Okay.
A camper or a boat.
And a boat. He told me the boat one when I was 16 years old. I've brought that up to him several times. Now I feel like I can't buy a boat ever. Like I'll come to church, Mr. Bowman, because I'm paid here. Yeah. Another possibility might be comfort, control. There are many things that we turn into gods. Our own happiness. Sometimes we turn ourselves into gods. Other people we turn into gods. Absolutely.
We're able to do our own lives to do what Jesus asked us.
Yep. If we don't do what Jesus asked us to do, He's not God in our life, right?
Exactly.
Let's go on to commandment number 2 then, verse 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. So when we look at this one, this is one that different Christians interpret a little different ways. Some Christians interpret it a little more strict than others. I think back when we were talking on, I think it was Romans 13 or 14, I told you guys about Mason Good, who we sent to plant a church here. He is what we would consider a very strict second commandment person. He doesn't even like a nativity set because it provides a graven image of Christ. Now, most of you have no problem with that, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree on that, and I don't think he thinks any less of you because of that. It's just one of those things that it depends on how strict you take this. Another question is, what do we do with art? My daughter's an incredible artist. She does nice paintings. She got me, for my birthday, she made a painting of one of the places we visited in Wales. It's looking out a castle window over the marshes there in Wales. It's beautiful. Is that a graven image? Where does it cross the line? Most would agree. Oh, go ahead.
I think it crosses the line when you worship.
Yeah, and that's what this commandment is saying, right? And I think that's why it continues to go on. It's not that we cannot represent, because even today, I mean, they didn't have photographs back then. Think about what we do with photographs now. It's when you cross that line and begin to worship that graven image that it becomes a problem. And that's why Mason and I would disagree on that particular point. I'm not worshiping that little wooden carving in the nativity set or ceramic or whatever it may be.
I think there's a difference between worship and cherish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good nuance. Yeah, absolutely. To cherish something is different than to worship it. Yes, absolutely.
When you go outside tonight, you leave here,
Well, and I
you should admire that.
Yeah.
You don't worship that. You worship the one who actually created it.
right, or just like let's say you got a really nice photograph of the Northern Lights last week. To cherish that is one thing. To worship it is another. To allow it to cause you to worship, I think, is very biblical. But there is a danger, and I think that's why God is laying this out here, is that He knows human tendencies. Look, if you start, I don't know, let's say carving cows, you're going to probably worship that cow.
I don't think we would.
You don't think you would, but Israelites would. If you start carving these things, if you start making a lot of these things, then you might have this tendency. And so I do think it's a good warning even though I believe cherish versus worship is a good nuance. I think it is a nice warning for us to make sure we're drawing the line on our idols. Yeah, Donna.
Just kind of what Val said.
Yeah. To worship God because of them. Yes, absolutely.
I think the problem is that when you're making
It can be very small.
something,
Yep.
go into worship pretty quickly.
It can. Absolutely. And I think that's the danger. All right, commandment number 3. You shall not take the name of your Lord, the Lord your God, in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. First, let's just say this is about more than profanity. It's not necessarily the modern idea of cursing. It's when we take God's name and we apply it to something that God did not apply it to. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. We cannot throw around the Lord's name like that. And so forgive me for what I'm about to say, but if somebody says, God damn it, what they're doing is calling down the name of the Lord, a curse on somebody else, that God did not say to do that. That's why we consider that an inappropriate statement all the time. It's never an appropriate statement to say because you're calling out the name of God. Other ways people take the Lord's name in vain is sometimes things like, well, you know what? God told me you're supposed to do this. I can't stand when people do that. And my Uncle Randy, a lot of you guys know he had a car lot right out here. He had somebody come to him once, and it was a preacher. And he said, hey, I've been praying, and God told me you're supposed to sell me this car at this price. And Randy asked me about it. He said, okay, preacher boy, I got one for you. And he explained the situation. I said, Randy, well, what I would have said is, well, God didn't tell me. And and it seems like I'm the one that should have got notice. And he goes, that's exactly what I said. That is taking the Lord's name in vain as much as swearing or something like that is, because you're ascribing the name of God to something God did not say. just so you can have more weight to your statements. That's incredibly inappropriate, and that's not how we interact with God.
Is that not the prosperity gospel?
That is the prosperity gospel, I think. Yes, I think prosperity gospel takes the Lord's name in vain a lot. It's also there's also evidence here that it's about a court case too. When you are asked to swear by God, you tell the truth. But we'll get to that one again later. So the most common violation of this today is just empty worship or using God to bless our own agenda. That's taking the Lord's name in vain, along with saying words that invoke the name of God. All right, last one on what we'll call tablet 1 on how to relate to God. Verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So you see here a reference to what they had happened to him just a couple weeks before this. The idea of the manna being doubled on the Sabbath, God went ahead and introduced this idea that you're to collect twice as much the day before the Sabbath, and so that you can prepare for this day of rest. The question we always wrestle with on this one, now that I've given you several categories, is this moral or is this ceremonial? And there is some disagreement on that, because in the New Testament, you see Jesus kind of put twists on it. You see even Paul talk about the Sabbath differently, and even kind of include it in this relativistic area of don't let anyone judge you for your view on the Sabbath. You remember him saying that. Jesus kind of redefines it as the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And so what a lot of scholars have done is say that instead of calling this moral or ceremonial, it's both. You've got both. You've got a moral law of rest that is established on God resting in creation and how we are made and how we are designed. That's the moral part. The ceremonial part is, hey, Israel, you do it on this day. This is your Sabbath. Obviously, as Christians, we've shifted that Sabbath even. We usually take our day of rest, the Lord's Day, on Sunday, instead of what they would do on Saturday. And so this is the one of the 10 commandments that may have two components to it. There is a moral component, I believe, in that it's God recognizing that we're going to need rest. We need this. This is a regular rhythm. We need to honor God on a regular basis. But there is also a ceremonial part in telling, or even maybe a civil part, that Israel, this is when you're going to do it. So God commands rest because he wants his people free, not enslaved again by work, achievement, or production. Any thoughts on the Sabbath there and the close of tablet 1 on how we relate to God?
I think we've taken the Sabbath day.
We absolutely have, yeah. In both ways. I think I see people get way too legalistic about it, and then I see people get way too flippant about it. It's both. Because there is this moral component to it that I think we need to obey, and sometimes we just shrug it off, and we say, we don't. That one doesn't apply to us anymore. Well, there's some part of it that applies to us. Absolutely, there is, and it's to honor God and to honor how He's made us. Yeah, Donna.
First of all, you preached on this in August the 9th of 22.
I always love you reminding me of when I.
The 22.
Okay.
And then August the 28th. And in that one section,
Yeah. To refresh us, absolutely. So this is more than think of this as more than an absence of something. It's a presence of something. It's something that we get out of it. It's a refresher, a restoration.
And speaking of the Sabbath, after we became Sunday at all. But I would talk him into going out to eat on Sunday.
Yeah.
And he said, so it's okay if we can do that. And we're making it.
Yeah.
We can feed us.
And that's where it gets really nuanced, and you can take it too far, and you've got to think about that. I've always thought that. I don't know. It's hard.
But that's sort of
I argue with Paul O'Brien a lot too on this one.
the blue law. Wasn't there something called the blue law?
Mm-hmm.
Stores
Yep.
weren't open.
Stores weren't open. Boy, I miss those days. That'd be fantastic. I'd be in support of that myself until I needed something, I guess.
Yeah.
Why isn't Walmart open?
Hey, Josh.
Yeah,
Can I ask you something?
very quickly because we got to close.
Okay, you got it. When I was reading something about the planets, all the stars they're looking at, you can see something coming out from them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
it means when I say that, all kings are around the whole city. And he's claiming this place is lit.
Have you been reading the Christmas story?
Yes,
Is that what I can tell? yeah. Referencing that. That's good, Jenny. Thank you.
I learned that when I was growing up.
Yeah,
with my
yeah.
parents. Well, my parents are Catholic. I'm
Yeah.
Catholic, like you guys are. But some people don't believe that stuff,
Right.
you know.
Well, we would believe that for sure. Yes.
But yeah, because I don't want to judge you. I'm
Right.
not
No.
saying that.
Nope. Let's look at tablet number 2 real quick, and then we'll close. These
Sorry,
aren't.
guys. I just want to get the thing off my chest.
Verse 12, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. This is what a lot of people would call a hinge command, where we're switching from how we honor God to honor man, and it starts with our authority on earth. This doesn't mean blind obedience to our parents. It means respect and honor and care and lifting them up. Means treating parents with dignity, gratitude, seriousness. Even if you have non-Christian parents, this, I think, applies. Verse 13, you shall not murder. This goes all the way back to creation, right? The Imago Dei. Every human being has the image of God in them. Therefore, we don't take life casually. This is a respecting of life. Jesus even kind of ups this one, doesn't he? And says, even in speech, when you dehumanize people with your speech, it's like you're murdering them. And so it is about more than just taking the life. It's about devaluing that life. We don't believe this applies to governments or punishments, and we'll see that next week because somebody had to be the executioner at some point. This is about taking life into your own hands, devaluing it, and letting your hatred get out of control, even with your tongue sometimes.
Isn't that the sort of the moral argument of anti-abortion?
Yeah, I think so.
Taken on.
You shall not commit adultery. Marriage is part of their covenant. It's not just a contract. Adultery vandalizes a picture of God's faithfulness. This isn't just about sex. It's about integrity, fidelity, covenant faithfulness. You shall not steal. God is the giver of all provision. If you're stealing, that means you're not trusting God, right? If you're stealing, you're saying, okay, God is not going to give me what I need, therefore I'm going to take it. Stealing violates our love to our neighbor by taking what somebody else may depend on. So this is one of those. This is kind of the three that are in almost every culture, even when they're non-Christian cultures, non-Judeo-Christian cultures. We still see these kinds of commands. There's some idea of possession. There's some idea of marriage fidelity, even if it's multiple. But there is some idea of partnership there, and there's some idea of not killing. And so these are it's almost like these are written on our hearts that we get these. Verse 16, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Again, this is not just don't lie. It's originally a courtroom command that was protecting justice, that when it's called upon you to give an account, you give an accurate account because somebody else's life might end up depending on this. And so you must not bear false witness. That is, the whole system crumbles if you lie when you're on the stand. But it's also in day-to-day life. If you're spreading gossip, if you're carrying around false witness about your neighbor, then it's all going to crumble. Verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male servant or his female servant or his ox or his motorcycle or his boat or his donkey or anything else that is your neighbor's. And so you've got this idea here. This is the only purely internal command. And so it's God setting up boundaries, not just on your actions, but what? Your thoughts and your feelings. He's setting up boundaries here. This is where it's going to be how you act if you don't, because what happens if we covet? We end up stealing or killing, or if it's coveting a neighbor's wife, it is adultery. So it exposes the heart behind all of our other sins: discontentment, envy, comparison of each other. And coveting says God wasn't as good to me as somebody else, and therefore I'm jealous of that person. Yikes! When you think about it that way, that is scary. When we covet, we're actually saying God wasn't as good to me. So gratitude kills coveting at the root. That's the application there. Anytime we're content and we're grateful for what we have. 'Tis the spirit of the season, right? As we celebrate Thanksgiving, may that what we be doing. So those are the 10 Commandments in a nutshell. Meanwhile, back on the ground, verse 18. Now when all the people saw the thunder and the flashes of lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, the people were afraid and trembled, and they stood far off and said to Moses, You speak to us and we'll listen, but do not let God speak to us, lest we die. Moses said to the people, Do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you, that you may not sin. The people stood far off while Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was. And so God's purpose even here was the same as it's always been, making himself known and drawing his people to him. He's introducing this idea of sin, and that's what the law is. The law is a boundary for grace for us. It's an understanding of what is happening. Let's do a few so whats, and I'll see if you want to add. Number one, salvation comes before obedience. We've got to get that order straight. We do not earn salvation through our obedience. God saved them, and then he gave them the law to follow. That's the order even still for us today. Christ saves us, changes our heart, and we should want to obey. Second, we need a mediator between us and God. We are like those trembling Israelites that say, I don't want to come that close. I'm not holy enough to come that close. Therefore, we need a mediator. Our mediator is not Moses. It is who? Jesus Christ. Finally, God calls his people to be distinct. That's part of what he's doing here in the law. He's creating this idea of holiness that sets his people apart. They're going to interact with him differently, and they're going to interact with each other differently. And that's going to set them apart from normal, regular human beings that only care about themselves. God wants his people to be distinct. That's part of the idea of the law. Is there so what you would add that you pulled from tonight?
I do.
How many of you have a 10 Commandments thing hanging at home? You do? I think I've got one. I've got a blanket that somebody gave me. You take a look at them, huh? All right, let's close in prayer. Val,
Just a
quick comment.
thought. It seems here that when you read through this,
We can approach God, yeah. But through Christ.
through
Yes.
Christ, and we're still to honor him and obey him and all the power that he is. But I think sometimes people forget that we can truly
Yeah.
approach God because of Jesus.
Well, and I think that's part of why Moses says, don't be afraid. He's trying to make you his people. Yeah. Good. Good word. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for bringing us together tonight to continue to study this great book of history, and now as it turns into a book of law, I pray that we would better understand what it is that you want us to do and how you want us to live, how you want us to be obedient. God, you have saved us for a purpose, for a reason, and we want to better understand it. So God, help us to love you better by not having any other gods, by not taking your name in vain, by remembering a Sabbath. And God, help us to love each other better. To love other people better by treating them with respect and dignity, our parents all the way down to strangers. God, our neighbors, may we treat them right, and ultimately may we set up boundaries in our own heart of coveting and discontentment and always being focused on self. The law redirects every bit of that. And when we begin to see why you've given us this law, we see how it is that you want us to treat you and to treat others. So continue to teach us, we pray. In Jesus' name, our mediator. Amen. Blessings, guys. See you Sunday.
Can I ask you guys real quick? If you guys go home tonight? I do remember a lot of things in my book, and it tells me a lot of things to correlate what people out there. And I can't portray God Jesus. Jesus is the one that's the king of it. I can't do that.